is a
Check. Wait, was that a Blessed by a Broken Heart reference?
We did it before. It was Lonely Island.
Fair enough.
Check. It's my favorite porno. There's two dicks in one mouth.
I got pizza, so.
You feel better now?
Yeah. It was pretty good.
That's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And somebody had the bright idea to get barbecue wings. So I was dipping my pizza in the barbecue sauce. Like a real fat shit.
That's fair. Can't really blame you there.
Yep.
Anything to get the taste of fucking licorice alcohol out of your fucking
I
mouth.
love this stuff.
All right, so
Grew up on
I gotta
Ouzo.
do a sinking thing, don't I? All right. Remember the last time I did that, I fucking popped your ear?
Do it.
You know what? I think that works. Yeah. We're done.
Did we catch that on the mic?
1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right.
We're good. I'm sure that'll be good enough.
Huzzah.
I'll figure it out.
We'll
made it.
fucking make it work.
Just make that the opener.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3. I feel like a fat piece of shit after eating the pizza, and I'm just like looking at myself in the camera, and I'm just like, welcome to
We're all kind of loud here.
We're gonna talk about pizza.
Welcome to the Pizza Cast.
Yep.
I do like pizza.
So
Yeah.
I'm the only one that didn't have any pizza.
Yep. Go
Yeah,
get
why
some
not?
pizza.
Why didn't you get some?
The fuck? Guess we're gonna take a short break, everybody.
No, you've lost that
No,
opportunity now.
We're good.
You're getting it an hour later, buddy.
I didn't get it on purpose. We're good. Like it wasn't it wasn't like a fucking oversight.
Oh,
It just was like, I don't feel like eating pizza right now.
Yeah.
okay.
I just figured you really didn't want to give up your seat.
Just
Oh yeah,
conscientious.
this great seat that's in between two cushion connecting, like where I'm just fucking getting dicked by a couch the whole time. This is the greatest seat.
You're welcome.
I thought he was gonna call us cushiony.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's where
I mean, it's fairly accurate.
yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong in making that assumption.
No, it's the best seat, like adjacent in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm by the best people, but in terms of comfort level, I'm currently getting
You're uncomfortable.
butt fucked by a couch.
And you didn't move when everyone else left. You just
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Kept letting it
I
happen.
don't want to talk about it.
It's no longer our
Did the
prerogative.
couch like Stockholm syndrome you?
I understand where it's coming from.
Speaking of man-meat sandwiches, Final Fantasy 15.
Wait, man-made sandwiches.
Man-meat sandwiches.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's
No,
a bunch of dudes on the couch.
I get it a lot more now that I understand what
Oh
you
yeah,
said.
yeah. Sausage Factory, the road trip, the game.
I mean, that's pretty much, you just described the game.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to fucking talk about Final Fantasy, aren't we?
Yeah.
He's shoehorning that right in.
Oh, right in there.
Yeah.
Cool, all right.
so-
Well, I mean,
I haven't played it yet, so
It's either that
Tighter
or
than
just
Patrick
jerk
in
each other
between
off
you
for
guys.
15 minutes.
15.
Did you go ahead and are you checking out for the next 15 minutes?
More like 5, friend. Like,
You're a quick shooter. I rubbed one out in the bathroom first thing I got here, so I wanted to last a little longer for you boys.
It's only tradition at this point.
Right.
Got to make sure that these toilets don't leak anymore.
Yes. Just put my legs up on the squatty potty and blumpkined myself.
How before we talk about Final Fantasy, you know how when it was the hurricane and you filled up your bathtub with water and that's what like sprung a leak in your house?
Yeah.
Basically. So it turns out we had the same leak, but it did not come from the tub. It came from the toilet, which was very odd and
Tasty.
So basically shit water has been leaking onto our ceiling downstairs for like God knows how fucking long before I realized it was. So yeah, there's a giant hole in our ceiling right now as they are
hell yeah.
too lazy to come back out and fix it.
Nice.
That's my shit. We had
The
a...
same people afraid of your little corgi.
Correct.
Excellent.
That's how it do.
To be fair, he's just now learned to bark. So
It's fair to be mad at or afraid of him. We had a tree fall on our house last year. And then we had a hole in the ceiling, and then it got fixed, and then it was still there, and that happened like 4 times.
What do you mean? It was like the hole was still there?
Yeah, we had people come. Like we had a guy come out, and he's like, "Yeah, I went up there.
Yeah.
I patched everything up. It looks good." The next day, it rains, and there's just like water coming
Fell
from my
through.
roof. And I'm just like, "Okay, round 2." So he comes back out, and he's like, "All right, I looked at everything. I couldn't find anything. Nope, didn't fix it." Eventually, it got fixed.
That sounds like a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Well, it was more so. I don't know. I guess there was like several like small cracks that the water was just like fucking.
Mazing into.
Yeah. Is it the
I mean,
Goldberg machine, is that what it's called?
If a tree goes through your
Goldblum
roof,
machine.
No, what?
A Rube Goldberg machine.
Rube
It's like one of those
Goldberg.
things
You know,
where,
yeah,
like Mousetrap, where it
where it
goes
just
on
like-
I thought
and
you were
on,
going to be
triggers another
like,
thing.
much like life, water finds a way.
Well, there it is.
yeah, if a
That's
tree
what I thought
goes,
you were getting at.
Liu Kang, use the element that
little
routines
little
life.
friendly advice.
Man, I actually kind of want to watch that first Mortal Kombat movie again.
Yeah,
it's excellent.
I want to watch.
Excellently
Rad.
bad.
I want to know.
Yes.
The first one is okay. The best thing about those movies, if you haven't seen them, is you should watch them back to back. Because the first movie, the second movie, in a ballsy move, picks up literally the scene the first movie ends. There's no time in between.
It's great.
But they lost about 90% of their funding.
and the cast.
Yeah. So within the first 3 minutes of the second movie, Johnny Cage dies, and then like the character that does
He just goes down like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, literally just fucking rip in peace.
Raiden is played by Dexter's dad.
Yeah, he is.
They could not get the last Highlander.
The best part is, so it ends the first movie, right? It's got like it's decent like early '90s special effects. The second movie opens and it's just like a cardboard cutout, like held up by string. And like fuck, just it's so bad. It's like a fucking like
The first
elementary elementary stage performance.
The first movie ends in Tibet, and the second movie picks up in Hooverville.
they're in Reno, Nevada. Just like that's all we can fucking do.
Yep.
I was just mad because there was a second Sub-Zero in that movie, and their excuse was, that was my brother.
Yeah.
That's canon.
Isn't that canon?
Yeah, it is canon.
Why are there so many
super canon.
Yeah,
Why
like there's
there's
like
so many fucking
14
Sub-Zeros?
Sub-Zeros.
There's like a clan of Sub-Zeros.
It's a whole clan of Sub-Zeros.
Yeah. There's
But only one of
Scorpion.
them can be
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero.
Right.
The rest of them are other
They're just
things.
zero.
Yeah.
They're not Sub-Zero.
There is an absolute zero
Sub-2.
somewhere.
They're like 272 Kelvin.
Gotcha. None of them are absolute.
Yeah.
Fun science jokes. Anyway, Final Fantasy 15. Go ahead and talk about it, Dan, because you've been fucking clamoring about this shit for a goddamn
So
week
yeah,
at this point.
Chris and Dan are the only two that have played this, right?
Yeah.
That are here, correct.
That are here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Michael's played it.
So
James is playing
Yeah,
it.
we know he's fucking playing it because he posts
PS4 shares it every 10 minutes.
single thing that he does.
hashtag calling out Michael.
Yeah. Sorry,
Motherfucker has,
we
like,
hashtag called you out on the
PS4
last
share.
one.
Oh wait, I didn't even hear what I
Holy
got
shit,
called out
buddy.
Oh, just listen.
for. I'm good.
No, he probably will, because I'll probably edit it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, Michael's PS4 posts are fucking ridiculous. Like 1 or 2 is like totally fine, but it's
Yeah.
legit. You know when he's like at home and he's drinking, when like the next
Yeah.
20 posts you see are all photos like, it looks like they're having a good time. Like,
It's not even like cool photos. It's like bullshit.
It's like when we all first discovered Instagram, or when he discovered Instagram. It's like, I could take pictures of my food, but now I can take pictures of my food in Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah. So
Sponsored by Cup of Noodles.
sponsored by Cup Noodle. Okay, here's where I go on my little rant here. That was the most shilly thing that I've ever done in a video game. It is literally sponsored by Cup Noodle, and there is a Cup Noodle quest, and you eat cup noodles in the fucking game.
That is
It is the
very Asian.
worst. It is the worst.
but it's also the best.
Oh, it ends up kind of the quest is actually fun, but it's
That's
ultimately
good, at least.
So like
ultimately ridiculous.
one of the characters comes up to you and is just like, you know what I could really go for? I can go for a nice bowl of
Fucking
cup noodles.
ramen.
Let me tell you about the deliciousness and satisfaction that I get when I have cup noodles. But what do you like to add to your cup noodles? And then you have to answer, do you like to put in beef, chicken, like
or
seafood?
eggs. It was
eggs?
meat, shrimp, or eggs.
Yeah, something like that. And then based on what you decide is what you go kill to get that item to then make cup of noodles the next time you camp.
Yeah, it's this whole thing where he makes you you literally kill. I picked meat.
Why?
Because
Yeah, so
I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
And you go kill a behemoth and take the behemoth steak and put it in your cup noodles, and then they all go, it's okay, but you can't really mess with the ultimate perfection that is the cup noodle recipe. And I'm just like, what?
No.
Okay, and then Coleman, because you spend so much time camping, Coleman sponsored the fucking game. So it's like,
There's really like sponsors in this fucking game?
Yeah, anytime you camp and it like
2016 is the worst fucking year ever, dude.
it
I'm
zooms
fucking
in on the
over it.
camping material. Like you got
Done.
your cooler, you got your chairs, you got
you got
your
your little fold out
tent,
chairs, your tent,
and
they all say Coleman.
Coleman on it.
At least you don't drive an Audi. At least you don't drive an Audi anymore, because they were so mad about that they had to limit that to the Kingsglaive movie. The car that you drive in is an Audi.
Before we continue ranting on bad parts. Wow. So do you need to have actually consumed all that extra media they put out to get the story?
Okay.
It's not.
Here's what I'll tell
necessary.
you. You play through the first few chapters when things start to happen, and then you should stop and go on Cody and watch Kingsglaive, and it'll make a whole lot of things make a whole lot more sense.
Oh, here's the thing. That requires watching anime.
It's not anime. It's CG.
So you're watching the
It's like
spirits
watching
within.
the spirits within. It's like watching Advent.
Whoa.
I would rather watch
Whoa.
anime, friend.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Just trying to put it in a good light. Then we had to remind
I'd
ourselves.
rather
that
like
Alec
shank my
fucking
own
Baldwin
kid
was in a
than
Final
watch
Fantasy movie.
The Spirits Within.
Okay, so
That movie would be an okay CGI like sci-fi movie
No, it wouldn't.
if it wasn't called Final Fantasy.
No, it wouldn't.
If it was just called The Spirits Within.
It was all. You've watched it,
It's
right?
bad. It's not. It's not.
Atrocious.
But a lot of my disappointment with the movie came from the fact that it just wasn't Final Fantasy.
I
That
mean,
movie came
Most
out
of
when I
my
was, like,
dissatisfaction-
fucking 13,
Yeah,
so.
my-
Came from the fact that Alec Baldwin was in it.
and can't pick a character. Like the whole
Yeah.
movie is fucking garbage. Like it's utter garbage, but not like utter as in like utter garbage. It's utter garbage as in like you milk a garbage cow,
Yeah, like
and just
garbage
garbage
udders.
comes out of its udders.
Garbage udders.
It's fucking atrocious, and I want to punch myself in the face just for thinking about it. It
Should do
was
that right now. I would love to see it.
worst. Single worst
We're on
thing
camera
that's
for like
happened
the
in my
first
double
time in like a
digits.
year.
Yeah.
Can we watch Spirits Within and record like a
Just me punching
like just
myself.
an angry like shit talk fest over it, like a riff track kind of thing?
Yeah, why not? We can riff track whatever.
So anyway, watch Kingsglaive because it's actually pretty decent.
Can we riff track?
I heard
Kingsglaive?
it was good.
Kingsglaive, despite its Rotten Tomato meter, actually has a more compelling main character than the main fucking game. So watch it.
I actually, to be
That's
fair,
the Dan stamp of approval.
This is the same company that made the main character of Final Fantasy XII the least interesting character in the entire game.
ever.
It's
Yeah.
true.
So I mean,
They also
I don't
made
even
Final
remember
Fantasy
that
13, which was garbage.
More hot
I
garbage.
literally did not play that one.
But this one, they kind of drop you into the story obtusely, but once you get into it and you understand what's going on, it's one of the best
Hold on.
stories.
Are you telling me that a Square Enix game in 2016 has an obtuse storyline?
I don't know if you know
Hold the
this.
fuck on, dude.
Yeah, well, this fits right into my theory. And my theory, dear listeners and viewers,
Dear
Is-
listener.
Dear listener.
Dear listener, Eugene, how you doing?
dear listener,
Shout out to wait, he's part of us now.
shit.
Fuck.
We literally fucking sniped one of our own viewers. Like, what the fuck?
It's all right. One day, viewers, if you're listening, if you've got dreams of also failing, maybe you can take my place after I commit suicide.
Damn. Just rock bottom off rip.
Rip in peace. Okay.
Got any more of that licorice vodka, y'all? No.
Not even licorice vodka.
No.
To mix it with your vapor water.
For watered down licorice. Hell yeah.
Oh, so anyway, my theory is that this whole game is a rehearsal for Kingdom Hearts 3 because it's the same battle system. It's like the same sort of traipsing about, running around, being magical and whatever. And then there's a scene, as Chris finally got to, that was straight out of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I guess I can make that comparison
Yeah.
if I reach a little bit.
It's not much of a reach. There's like that scene where he's like falling through water, and it's like the intro of every Kingdom Hearts game. And then there's like,
Yeah, if we're talking about that stupid lovey-dovey cutscene, because everything has to be over-fisted. And
it was beautiful.
Over-fisted and
Over-fisted.
Over-fisted.
That's what I like to hear.
It's never under-fisted.
To counter don't get me wrong, visually everything that I saw in that scene was stunning. However, I did not give two fucks about what was going on because, again, it is a Square Enix game, so they do not give you any sort of character context, and they just expect you to like these characters when you start playing the game. Like, they should have ripped off more Western games and made characters more interesting from the get-go instead of just being like, well, you play as this guy, so you should fucking care about him. No.
You read about it. Open up the little jacket that came with the game and read about his blood type, idiot.
Japanese are obsessed with blood types.
If it came with the jacket.
I think it's waned a little bit over the years, but blood people, it was like kind of like an astrological thing.
Right. You can tell your personality.
Yeah, your personality off your blood type, which is obviously fucking horse shit, but
Oh man, I'm the worst then because I have AB.
I thought you were going to say
Hey, me
AIDS.
too. Positive or negative?
I mean,
I think I'm B.
Are you positive or negative?
negative.
This is perfect.
Why?
We're like two sides of the
Are
same
you O
coin.
positive?
No, I'm AB, but positive.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to kill myself.
There we go.
It's funny how the world works.
Yeah.
And now
All the
I've learned more about my
depression, none of the
friends.
wanting to jump off a bridge.
We're both, yeah.
Wait, do you think maybe having a negative or positive blood type affects your outlook on life? Like everyone with a negative
I just
blood
thought it
type
was
is
a
the
funny-
I mean, about as much as the stars do, sure.
It was a funny
kind of a
coincidence.
joke, yeah.
We're both AB, but I'm positive. and He's negative.
So you're APA. Together you guys are APA.
Pen pineapple apple.
No.
Pen.
Now it's gonna be stuck in your fucking head
No, it's not.
because I'm gonna be.
Because I've heard
the
that
beats there.
a million times. So on to more important things. Not important things, but so my question is what do you guys think they're going to keep from this game going into the Final Fantasy VII remake? Because that's the only Final Fantasy game that I care about.
The battle system.
They're probably going to keep the battle system.
Is the battle system serviceable?
Is it?
It's not Final Fantasy VII's battle system.
No shit.
Is it?
Perfect.
So
Okay, I know it's not going to be turn-based, obviously.
I want to
but-
talk about the 7 battle system real quick, and that the on default is the perfect speed. Every other Final Fantasy VII ATB, it's either too quick or too slow, but 7's is just fucking perfect.
Goldilocks.
Yeah.
There is a wait mode that you can do with the 15 battle
But
system.
I hate it. I can't.
I didn't
it's
do it.
unusable, in my opinion. A lot of people swear by it. Like on Reddit, a lot of people swear by it because it allows you to stop the match essentially and kind of check out your surroundings and check out weaknesses and shit. But I think it deters too much from the speed and the action of the game. I have no major qualms with it. The only problem that I have is that there are very few tells and there's very few opportunities to like effectively dodge.
Hey Dan,
Because
you know what?
most of the time you just get fucking whacked and you're like,
You know a game that has a combat system with a lot of tells in it? Oh no, you wouldn't worry about
Go.
you know, when I was playing, that was the comparison that I was making.
Oh man.
Not necessarily because they're not even the same game
it.
at
They're
all.
not even a little bit. No,
But-
they're weird in Japanese. That's about all.
There's a level of fairness
Yeah.
when it comes to Dark Souls and
The
Bloodborne.
unnamables.
The unnamables, this podcast.
The games that will not be named. There's a level of fairness where you can actively predict and play the game instead of just, oh, I got hit, I don't know why, and it didn't give me a prompt or anything.
But that's like I feel like to keep the Final Fantasy like theme going, you kind of have to have that bullshit mechanic every now and then. Like there were some fights in all the Final Fantasies where you just walk up and you're like, what did that guy just do to me? Because I'm now at a fucking game over screen and I haven't saved in 3 hours, so I'm kind of tilted.
This guy with a knife is pretty cute. Tom Bayer just comes up and pokes you and you're just like, ooh, I'm a frog and I'm dead. What the hell?
Oh yeah, by the way, there's a Tonberry.
There was definitely a
Doom Train in
little
8. The first time I ran into Doom Train, just knocks all the
Final
fucking
Fantasy 8.
Status
effects on me. I'm like, okay, let's just reset this game real quick and try again.
There's an enemy in the game called the Necromancer, and it was on a hunt. And every hunt that I've done up to that point has been pretty straightforward and simple. And then this one, it's like, well, this one's at night and they're only, weak to like light. So you don't really have anything that can kill them fast. So I'm like, okay, let me check these guys out. I walk up to their location. There's 3 of them. They all like fucking Kamehameha Super Saiyan blast me at the same time. And it's instant game over.
Sweet.
Like didn't even have an opportunity to save myself. I was like, well, I'm going somewhere else.
I am at too high of a level.
I was actually higher level than them,
Really?
and they still fucking one-shotted me.
Wow.
Some of the enemies in the game are a little ridiculous, but
Fantastic.
it's not unbalanced in the sense that I don't enjoy it.
I mean,
just
Final Fantasy VIII was the game that had Omega Weapon in it. So like Final Fantasy VII had Emerald Weapon. So like you're used to having
something ridiculous.
Yeah, and I know that
fight.
those Necromancer things probably aren't like in-game, like super in-game side content or whatever. But dude, Final Fantasy IX had Ozma in it, which was like maybe the worst fight in the history of RPGs ever. It's like a 45-minute status effect fight where you're just getting dicked on by a fucking gray ball. Like,
But no, you're getting dicked on by a giant bouncy
good.
ball that you got out of the 25-cent machine,
Yep.
but it's oversized.
and it's literally murdering the fuck out of
Yeah.
you.
To your point, I haven't had a single problem dodging attacks. So
Maybe you should play Dark Souls.
maybe this is that point where I say, get good.
Oh, I did. Now I'm like over leveled everything, and so I get hit and I watch my health not move, and I'm like, I'm good now.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm terribly under leveled because I'm a story whore. So I'm just like, wow, fuck a side quest. I don't give a shit. Let me just get into that story. And then the game gives you recommended levels for what you should be for whatever quest. And I'm looking and I'm like level 35 and the fucking thing says recommended level 50. And I'm like,
We can handle
this could go one way or another. How many Phoenix Downs do I have? And then I went and got my shit absolutely kicked in, but I made it.
If speedruns have taught me anything about the Final Fantasy series, is that you can beat anything at any level.
Yeah.
As long as you know what horrible cheesy shit to do during the fight.
The thing is, in this game, if you are under leveled, it makes you pay.
Really?
Like it's just the mechanic with the health. I've seen people complain like, well, the health regenerates when you're not in battle. That's very un-Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, but also one of the worst parts of Final Fantasy is having to like blow your mana to cure yourself out of combat.
Right. So they fixed that.
Gil and potions.
Yeah. The problem being, you're still going to run through them because what happens in this game is once they drain your first life bar, you go into danger where you can't do anything except heal. But the longer you take, your max HP goes down. So you can use a potion or whatever, but if your max HP is decreased by this much, then that's all you're working with unless you have an elixir or whatever. It gets pretty bad sometimes where you can literally heal that much and try to run away. And that's all you can do.
That reminds me of that the game that came out on, I think it's on PC as well. It's Salt and Sanctuary. It's like a 2D like Dark Souls inspired kind of game where like every time you healed yourself, basically like your equivalent of Estus Flask, every time you healed, your max HP would go down. And so it was just like until you went and rested again.
Right.
Like so
Yeah, same.
your last Estus Flask was like you had a quarter of your health. You're just like, oh, I'm about
This
to
doesn't
fucking
sound
shit on.
This doesn't sound like a mechanic so much to punish you for healing as much as it does sound like a mechanic to punish you for not sinking more hours into the game, which is
Or just
concept of grinding.
leaving a character in down state for too long.
Right. Yeah. So
Even as much as I've played and I've kind of overleveled myself, there's never been a moment where I felt like this game required you to grind, because even if you went with the story quests alone are not complex. They're not challenging at all. It's the side quests and the extra optional shit, like most Final Fantasy
Yeah, like every
games,
Final Fantasy.
Okay.
is the stuff that's actually challenging and worthwhile to play.
So are you frequently under-leveled if you go through the storyline like you are?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In like
So do you feel more encouraged to go through the side quests, or are you just kind of hard moding yourself on purpose?
I've only had to grind twice because they were both mandatory story quests. The first time I was under leveled by like 7 levels. I went and did a couple of side quests, got it up to like 1 level above recommended, and then breezed through the story quest. This time I'm now having to level right at the end of the game because I'm like 5 or 6 levels too low. And the enemies that I'm fighting now at this stage of the game are just quad 9ing everything. It's just, oh, hello, / quad 9. You're dead. Yeah.
That sounds hot.
And I'm not that far behind you.
Everything changes shortly for you.
Oh, yeah?
So don't, yeah.
It definitely sounds like 2 very different playthroughs, which is always good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun listening.
I
to
mean,
you.
it would be awful if you guys had the exact same playthrough.
You talk to James and he's like the same level as me, but I'm in chapter 13 and he's in chapter 5. So
Wow.
that guy grinds even harder. But
Yeah,
he's
I
the
grind
kind of
pretty
guy that
difficult,
will do all the side quests first before he takes any sort of story. And once you hit a certain point of the game, you still can go back and do things, but the story definitely trucks along faster once you hit a certain point.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
chapter 9 is when it's just like, now we're going full steam ahead. It's going to be a little bit more linear. You're going to want to follow the story. The chapters are going to be short and snappy, and you're going to truck to the end of the game. But up to that point, it's a very Western RPG where it's you start the game and you're literally dropped in a fucking world, and you can just do whatever you want at that point.
You can drive around, run around, camp, hunt.
Get chocobos.
Get
Chocobos.
chocobos.
I can't wait until we actually have the other genre, like the Germanic RPG. I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
I think Witcher is going to usher in a new genre of RPG.
There's-
Western RPGs.
Yeah, that's what I mean by
I feel
Western.
I disagree. I think Witcher is a blend of both Eastern optimization and Western story, or I guess linear styles. Because I feel like
I don't
have
think
to be-
anything about Witcher is linear.
I agree, which is where it takes on Western aspects. I think
Where we don't believe in linear.
right, we don't
anymore.
Absolutely, and then it also like I think it's a hybrid. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But I think the difference, at least when I think of The Witcher versus Final Fantasy, is that it took the right things from The Witcher and then it stayed away from the things that I didn't like about The Witcher.
Yeah, I don't think The
story?
Witcher is a perfect blend
What's that?
at all.
Inventory.
I have, the inventory eventually got better with patches.
Yeah.
But I'm mainly saying that, and it's not even necessarily a problem with just The Witcher. It's most Western open world RPGs is that if you give me too much to do and you make a world that is so vast, and as much as I appreciate the work that you put in and there's going to be great storylines to follow, eventually you stop giving a fuck about the main storyline and it no longer becomes important. Where Final Fantasy...
You have the other situation where it's just like, I'm fucking tired of all these side quests. Like I'm beelining the main story at this point.
Right. But that's where Final Fantasy like gets the right idea, where they give you the open world in the beginning of the game. And then once it basically gives you the options, just like, hey, once you do this, like you can't come back for a while. Right. Are you sure? It's just like, all right, story is the main focus right now. Like you can't really go and do other things. We want you to focus on this because it's important to us. Whereas The Witcher is like, if it gives you like a task that's like you need to get here by a certain time, but there really isn't a time limit,
Right.
it kind of breaks the immersion a little bit to where it no longer becomes important to me.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a hybrid. I don't think it's perfect.
Maybe
At
if
all.
The Witcher had like a bomber's notebook.
Like from Majora's Mask.
Yes, that was the joke.
I got it.
If you had to be there at a certain time.
I mean, there are certain things where you have to do it within time limits, but
All
Yeah.
I'm saying
When
is
I-
the bomber's notebook is the best thing in any game ever. Such a good idea.
it really was. It was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Get it?
No, can you explain that for me?
It was ahead of its time.
Okay, go on.
Still don't get it.
So yeah, and we'll be talking about this more on a future little special thing that we want to do for Final Fantasy. But you can see we have two very, very different playthroughs and two
I think we
generally
ultimately
different
have.
experiences.
I think we have the same opinion of the game, though. It's just we like it. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction.
So
like-
Jared, I think you wanted to know where it stacks up.
Yeah. I mean, that was my biggest fear, was everybody was going to be like, oh shit, it's a good Final Fantasy, fucking dicks out. And then, but it's,
I don't think you have to worry about that in 2016,
Yeah.
my friend.
If you come into this game expecting a Final Fantasy game, you're going to be heavily disappointed.
okay.
You have to come into this with an open
Yeah, I
mind.
was
that
gonna
they
ask, where-
are changing a lot of the things that make a Final Fantasy game, as it were.
Right.
And I personally am good with the changes because as much as I would love to see a traditional RPG again, that genre is just not really, it's not really pushing anymore.
it's gone.
It's
Yeah.
kind of gone.
I mean, if you look at the active battle system that they have, that's, in my opinion, the evolution of the battle system that was in Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
That it's just made in another dimension. So everybody who, praises Chrono Trigger for its excellent execution of its battle system, but still offering you the classical system as well, but then like immediately shits on the newer Final Fantasies. I mean, I see them as the exact same battle system. It's just they've added a third dimension and they tried to add more depth. I don't think they did it with as much finesse, but then again, I mean, Final Fantasy is Squeenix. Chrono Trigger was 3 people who designed 3 very popular things that aren't just Squeenix. So
Well, it was pre-Enix entirely.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it was who would define our Eastern RPGs as, or under the flagship of Final Fantasy. He was one of the heads. I forget his name. And then the other is Toriyama, I think. He's the guy who made Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, he's the guy that did all the art assets.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very obviously the art assets.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
literally have
But
red-haired Goku and
Yes.
purple-haired Bulma.
Yeah, but he was all over the stories, and I mean, yes, while the cartoon is known for absolute shit filler and turning 5 minutes on
not
Namek
Toriyama's fault.
into
Not
2
Toriyama's fault in the
seasons,
slightest.
exactly. That's just that's the way that industry is. I mean, I grew up with the manga, so because my dad was like, it gets him to read. So I enjoyed pretty much everything I could get my hands on.
Your dad failed you as a parent by allowing you to read such filth.
That filth. I don't know. He also gave me Robotech, so my dad is awesome in my book for that.
So really, while Jared's been going on about Chrono Trigger, I realized that the battle system from Final Fantasy 15 is the same battle system from Secret of Mana.
Oh,
Like
Kind of.
on the fly weapon changing,
right.
and active.
Damn, now I need to go play some
And-
Secret of Mana. I haven't played that game in a hot minute.
I love Secret of
I
Mana.
have that game in storage.
I think we smell a playthrough coming.
Yeah, let's fucking do it.
All
Can
right.
we get video out from a Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Let's fucking go. I have Secret of Mana at my house. Like
Okay.
we're good to go.
We can do
Like,
that. I have, in fact, a Super Nintendo. He does as well.
I think we.
The reason I got that specific capture is because it can do S video.
Nice.
Like, it can do
Yeah,
old
okay.
video. If it decides to fucking work, which is up in the air at this point.
That's another story for another time. How would you rank it in Final Fantasy Dom?
15th.
Nothing is worse than 12, buddy.
No, I mean 13.
Yeah. I enjoyed 12.
14th.
14 was okay. 11 was the worst. That's the worst
Those
fucking
don't
game.
count.
11 and 14 don't count.
They don't count because they're
I
MMO.
still rate them as fucking
However,
games.
one
I
time, a friend of mine that I played WoW with back in like vanilla was like, "Hey man, let's just play some fucking Final Fantasy 11. I'll get us on the same shard. It'll be great." Then I log into that game, right? And I hit like WASD and I don't move. And it's like, "Oh yeah, you got to use arrow keys." And I was like, "Fucking what? No, we're done."
And that's why it's the worst Final Fantasy game.
I literally spent 3 hours like installing and then like, because the way the game worked is you couldn't pick whatever server you wanted. You had to like wait for the server to be open. So I just ended like fucking F5ing the server list trying to like wait for the right server to be open and get on this dude's server. So like 3 hours later, I log in and literally he's like, yeah, it's arrow keys. Like Alt F4, uninstall, get off of it. I'll see you later. Like I'm fucking done here.
I would put it behind 10, so that would probably be like 5th or 6th on my list.
So can we come to a thought experiment here that I just came up with?
Okay.
Let's rank the Final Fantasies.
Yeah.
Ignoring 11 and 14.
Okay. Yes, please.
All right. So
Okay, Dan.
So
you look really excited.
13th, right? Like we're starting at number
worst.
13.
I'm starting from the top.
No, we're not going number 1 first. Fuck that. We got to do this like a real goddamn list.
Are we like
Okay.
12,
are we
then,
working
12.
together on this, or are we all making our own list?
No, I think we need to.
Okay, so Final Fantasy 13 is obviously
obviously it's the bottom. I think
number
no question.
13.
Yeah.
That is
13 is 13.
So
13 is 13.
So
All right.
from there,
And then I would say 12 is 12.
12's right there.
12 is 12.
so we're doing just main because Crystal Chronicles is definitely around the bottom of the fucking list.
Crystal
I
Chronicles
love
doesn't
that
count, and
game.
Final Fantasy Tactics would take a very high spot for me.
But yeah,
so-
Oh yeah,
That
Final
doesn't
Fantasy
count.
It
Tactics
doesn't
is
count, but it would be in the top.
Yeah, it would,
top
for sure.
2. Like
Yeah, they'd be
man.
neck and neck
It's
for
like
me.
What a good top
7-9
line.
Tactics.
Yeah.
what a good game. Hey, no, we're not doing. Come on,
What?
You
I'm
just said
saying
we're
for
not
my
doing-
personal list.
we're not a 7.
Okay, so from the 12th spot.
All right, 12 is 12. 13 is 13. 12 is 12. What's at 11?
It's pretty.
I mean, who really has experiences with the first ones?
I'm about to say
I do.
it's either 2, 3, or 15.
All right, this
I
is
would
the part where
say
you
2.
Yeah.
I'd say 2 is right.
I
down
agree.
there.
I agree. I don't
Okay.
think.
So what's
So we got
it's-
13,
it's
12,
3,
2.
It's 3 like official.
Somebody write
3?
this down. We gotta.
Is
I got
official 3 next? Like the Japanese 3, the one
Yeah.
they re-released on DS. I think that's next, right?
I didn't hate it.
I didn't hate it either, but we're getting into the list of games where none of these games are now games that we got the ones that were bad out of the way. Now we're just kind of like.
Well, we
ranking.
also have to realize that me and Patrick will not be able to rank the newest Final Fantasy. So we'll have to like.
Well, you have to go.
We'll
based off
we'll
of our-
interject.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
we need
Where
to
we
start
think
from
the
the
list-
top and argue our way down because after like 6 or 7, everything's going to become arbitrary anyways.
This is gonna get
because
dumb
they're
then
just going to
because
be
we're
the
just
bad
gonna argue
RPGs
about number 1 for an hour and a half.
No, it's
All right,
fine.
so what's your number 1?
No. Everyone just say their number 1, and then we'll come to an agreement.
On 3, all right? 1, 2, 3,
9.
6.
8.
Jesus.
What? Get out of your house.
No.
What did you say? 8?
This dude said
Absolutely.
8.
What a piece
buddy.
of shit.
So these 3 are valid responses.
I regret putting a $10 bill next to your dick earlier.
Good God, Chris.
8 is not terrible. So
It's not terrible,
Chris's
but it's
credit,
like not Chris. It's not
think-
top 5.
I think it's top 5.
It's not top 1.
I think 8 has this like really like the magic system and the unique way that you can absolutely just shatter that game into a million pieces. Like where you
It
can literally
rewards people who like take the time
you can
to
literally
think about the system that it's giving you.
you can not level up once in that game and be an OP piece of shit the entire game.
Yeah.
And that's really
It's the
fun.
only
the
Final
card
Fantasy
system
that
is gross.
truly rewards you to play the way that you want to fucking play.
Also, the triple triad definitely
Best card game.
spikes it up a little bit because Final Fantasy 9 is a card game,
Yeah.
and Final Fantasy 9 speedrunners don't even know how that card game works. They're just like, yeah, we just put the cards down and hope it works. If not, we reset. Like the game is just fucking has no actual rules. It's called Card Master, I think. The 9
It's
one?
not good.
Doesn't matter.
It's not good. But anyway, all right.
It's no Gwent.
So we need to. I think.
So we've obviously agreed
think-
that my choice is shit. So we'll just
So
we'll
6, 7,
argue.
and 9. All right. So I think.
All right, who said what?
You said
6, 9, 7. I think 9 has to go because I think 6 did what 9 did better.
I think 6 is really good because 6 had probably arguably my favorite character, which is Terra. But 9, I think 9 was fucking amazing.
No, 9's an incredible game.
Yeah.
But so my main issue with 9, and this is something that I did not know when I first played through it, but having recently played through 9, as in like 3 years ago, man, the load screens in that game are just not okay. If that game came out in 2016 and you waited 18 seconds to fucking get into combat with some random mob, nah.
It was not.
So you'd be fat on YouTube just fucking sweating and angry. I can't believe the load screens in this game are so fucking long. Like,
but that's how a lot of old are.
only
Final Fantasies are.
the disc-based ones. But
Yeah.
not even that. 7 doesn't suffer from that. 8 has a little bit of the issue.
They also had blocks. Like they
I
were
mean,
just made of blocks.
7 was obviously a Super Nintendo game that got ported to fucking PlayStation when all that shit went down with Nintendo and Square. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, honestly, 6 deserves to be at the top of the list, like, as it's kind of just like unanimously the
Iconic.
first
Yeah.
iconic Final Fantasy. Like 4 is really, really good.
Well,
I like
to me,
4.
I would rank 9, 5 because I like
The 5 is a good game.
the job.
It's not on my
I like
top
the
fives,
flexibility
but-
of the job class a lot. So it'd be like 9, 5, 6, 7. And then after that, I could really give a shit.
All right, I think so. Not as a personal list, just as an overall. What is the best overall Final Fantasy? 6 wins that, right? Even if it's not your favorite.
It's the pinnacle
Yeah,
of
I
Super
think 6.
Nintendo based
literally the
RPG.
best Super Nintendo RPG. Like I like Earthbound
well,
and Chrono Trigger
almost.
better. No, I like.
Yeah, I was gonna
like
say.
Earthbound and Chrono Trigger better as games.
Yeah.
But
Let's
I'm
say-
talking, like, in terms of just like mechanical, like what that game did. It was so long and just so like.
It also had the most interesting bad guy in a Final
Oh yeah,
Fantasy game.
Kefka wins
Kefka's
best bad
savage.
guy.
Kefka's OG.
No question.
So
Yeah.
the music was
So
fantastic.
I'll guess I'll concede. You know what?
Eight's still up there, buddy. There's no way in hell.
I don't know. All right. So here's the thing. As a child, 8 was very difficult for me to play through. And I liked that I could grasp 7 and still play through it in the 3rd grade. Because I'm a few years younger than you
and
guys.
he's like low key just shitting on Final Fantasy 7. Like, it's so easy. A fucking dumb 3rd grader we can fucking play it.
Well, I'm not. I had my fair share of troubles. Here's my thing. I learned Clim Hazard, which is the 4th limit break in the game, before you get out of Midgar. So I grinded a lot in that game because
Okay. Yeah,
I was too
think that
dumb to
requires
figure
you
out
to
what I
play-
needed to do.
You have to use each of those limit breaks like 100 times.
Yeah, something dumb like that.
Like,
I mean, I also figured out like the hyper system where you
Yeah,
can
where
take
you
like
take- yeah, you-
antidepressants or speed. I was always on speed.
yeah, if you're hyper, you get a faster limit
Yeah.
charge.
So I figured that out pretty quick. But I mean, yeah, I grinded the shit out of that game. I mean, my stepbrother was 17 and I was the same level as he was. And I was on like, I'm just dirtling outside of Midgar and he's on disc 2. So, I mean, I played a shit ton of that game, but I played it much slower because I couldn't figure it out as a kid. But Final Fantasy VIII blew me out of the fucking water. I could not figure out the limit break situation. I could not figure out magic for the life of me.
That game
And a lot of that
definitely-
is
that game
reading
definitely-
intense.
Yeah, it also throws you in there with
Yeah.
it's very like clunky and just like dense tutorials about how to junction shit and
Yeah, and
magic works.
Yeah.
I couldn't
you
do
get
it.
all that in the first like 20 minutes
Yeah.
of the game, and you're just like, oh god, my head hurts. Like, what is junctioning again? Can we start from the beginning?
Yep.
I didn't ever really get the hang of it, and I found the story completely uncompelling, so I quit
That's
Final Fantasy
Yeah.
VIII.
Final
I came back
Fantasy
to it later,
Final
and then I
Fantasy
was
is
like,
definitely a
the
love
story still
story.
sucks.
It's definitely
Yeah,
a love story.
it is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a fucking love. My favorite thing though, I saw a picture. I might actually have it on my phone right now. It's the scene where Renoa and Squall are at the dance, and Renoa's like, "You're the best looking guy here." And then the next, it's like a zoom in on Squall's like 16-bit disgusting face.
Best game
I mean,
ever.
I remember like renting the game from Blockbuster and being like, this game's graphics are fucking amazing. And then I fought like a
Dude,
T-Rex and was
8's
like, what the fuck?
At the time, 8's graph, especially coming off of 7.
Yeah.
Because I played 7 and then immediately played 8 because 8 had just come out when I first played 7.
Right.
So like going from 7 to 8, it was just this like, where did Popeye go and why can I tell what everyone looks like all of a sudden?
That 7
Yeah.
was the first Final Fantasy game that I played, and then 8, much
Yeah.
like you, I played right after because it was already out.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a working PlayStation
Yeah,
at the time.
I was
Yeah.
12.
So I played both on PC first. Like they were actual like IDOS PC
Yeah, no, I
ports.
have that. I have that original PC
And-
port chilling in my house.
Yeah.
My first assumption was, why aren't these the same characters? Did I buy the right game?
Oh yeah,
Because I had no idea that Final Fantasies were
They've been
different.
journeying on the same. It's just fucking forever. Just 7 games
You
deep.
can't recognize them because now they look like humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
I guess
of,
I just have a special
Squall
place in my
like,
heart for that game because that was like that was
I
the
think
that was the
that
only
is also
to kind of piggyback on what you were saying. I had friends who did not understand how that game functioned like with
Right.
junctions and the way that the game wants you to play it, to the point where I was the only one who figured that shit out. And that game made me feel special because I did.
Yeah.
Because I figured it out.
I could definitely see that. I mean, if I had figured it out, I think when I played, I was in like 4th or 5th grade. I probably would have felt pretty confident, because I'm pretty sure as an adult I still haven't figured out how Final Fantasy VIII works.
In middle school when I played those games.
Yeah,
And as
but I
much
mean,
as-
I absolutely adore Final Fantasy IX, because the first time I played it, like I didn't stop. I got it for Christmas, so I went home, and Christmas night I started playing, and my dad and I had a like live and let live policy of like, I know you're off work, old man, so don't find work for me to do on Christmas break, and I won't find work for you to do on Christmas break. So
Gentleman's agreement.
yeah, he just played Baldur's Gate in his room, and I just played Final Fantasy IX in mine for like 8 days straight before I had to go back to school. So I was on like the last disc, and I breezed through it. And I remember just being totally compelled and being old enough to be absorbed in the story. So that's probably why it's my favorite. Is I was finally mature enough to just live along with a Final Fantasy game.
That was the first Final Fantasy that I felt, I guess, that whimsy where it just like everything felt really fucking magical.
Yeah.
And like this was a really enjoyable but also kind of sad and depressing story.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it definitely set me up for the
Vivi's
rest of my
arc
life.
was like one of those arcs that you're just like, well, I guess as a 12-year-old, I'm going to have to re-examine my life right now.
I was definitely prepared to hang myself from the ceiling fan after that arc.
And nothing has changed.
So ceiling fan is still there.
So what was everyone's? So there's obviously everyone kind of says that your favorite Final Fantasy is usually the first one you play. So what was everyone's first Final Fantasy, just to, as like a thought
7.
experiment? 7.
1.
Jared.
Okay. To give some context, his mother plays RPGs more than he does.
Right. Fair.
So like that was just like a hand-me-down of like what the family does.
I have advanced opinions on Final Fantasy because I started
on Final
out of the womb playing Final Fantasy, and I played all of them.
Fair.
Like,
That explains why you think 6 is the best.
yeah.
My first Final Fantasy was 5,
Okay.
I've never played 6.
which is probably why I ranked
see,
5
that's-
above 6.
That's why you
that on
don't-
Super Nintendo. We should
I own it as well.
We should record a play.
I have it on like one of those like PlayStation like anthology discs.
No,
or
I actually
whatever.
have like the original cartridge that you should definitely play instead of those. All those anthology discs have like just awful load times.
They do.
I've got my copy, my SNES copy.
That's my
We should
only
play that.
Yeah, we should definitely.
That's
do
my
that.
only concern with like Saga Frontier when we get around to it is like during the middle of the load screens, like we'll just eat a rotisserie chicken or
Yeah,
like
just
actually have sex with
fucking
somebody on
masturbate real
yeah.
quick.
We'll like have a
Or each other.
Brazzers interview and
And that's
then
why we need to
like,
hire an editor
yeah.
so we can cut that shit out. Because I'm getting sick and tired of doing that shit.
All right, so we can say maybe. What do you want to say? 6 and 7, 1A,
69.
1B.
I think
69 is the best.
I think
6 and 9.
7,
We'll
9,
go
8.
6.5 for the best Final Fantasy
If you-
of all time.
I think should we just go top 5?
Yeah,
I think we should go top 5.
I think
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 or 6, 7, 9, 8 is my top 4 without any.
I mean,
Because like
I'm willing
4
to
is
yield.
good, 5 is good, and then I think my 5th spot is literally between 10 and 4.
6, 7, 10, 9, 15, 8.
This dude hates 8. Like,
Well, he put it at like 6 out
6.
of like
Yeah.
15, so it's not that bad.
I mean, 8
I would-
was
13. Remember, there's the 2 MMOs that we've taken out of the mix here.
Okay, fair. But
So
still,
literally-
it's still
so
above.
it's still-
That's
it's still
barely above
half.
50%.
It's still above the halfway point.
Yeah. I don't
Is the half
I don't hate it. I just didn't think it was good.
I would go 8,
get ready to play it.
8, 7, 10, 9, 15.
All right, so I think
So we're both at 5. Number 5 on Final Fantasy 15.
I would probably
don't have
agree with
I don't
Patrick.
have enough experience with the other ones to like
Yeah.
give them a full merit and say that, oh yeah, 6 should be up here. Because obviously I'm sure if I played 6, 15 would drop out of that equation.
I think even
Yeah.
to this day, like I played Final Fantasy 6 for the first time a couple of years ago. Like me and Amber at the time played through like every Final Fantasy over like a year. We just took turns. Like she played 4, I played 6, she played I played 7, she played 8. We just like kind of just alternated. And it's the first time I'd ever played 6. And like even in 2013 or whatever when I played that, it still holds up as a fantastic video game. Like
It really does.
it feels like you're playing a game that is made currently in pixel art. It doesn't have any dated mechanics. Like it honestly, and it does stuff in that game that is stuff that current games do. Like there's one part where you have to like wait for someone, and the game doesn't tell you that. There's no indicator. There's just like shit's going down, and if you don't wait for him, that character just fucking dies. You never see him again. But if you do happen to wait until the very last second of your timer, he shows up and just rides out with you. And that's like a very like modern gaming device, I think. The game it just has a lot of stuff like that, and it's a very well optimized game for Super Nintendo. So you really have like no like clunky loads, because obviously it's a cartridge, but also like there's no like jarring or like glaring issues with the game either. I think it came
at the end of SNES life cycle.
Yeah, it was
post obviously post Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Trigger came at the end of the SNES life cycle.
I think Chrono Trigger came out first, and then 6 came out. Yeah. I think there were 2 different teams.
So correct, but they still had the same creative minds on them.
But it was also early enough that 7, because like 7 was a Super Nintendo game.
Yes.
And then it was the disc add-on for Super Nintendo.
Right. Which was it was going to be the Sony Nintendo thingy.
Yeah, and then
that did not work the fuck out.
So that's why it looks like shit.
Yep. It's all right. Phillips had the right idea.
Oh yeah, dude, the Wand of Gamelon?
Which was a wonderful playthrough by the Game Grumps, by the way.
I haven't even finished it. It's grueling.
I don't think they finish it.
No, they finished the game.
I heard.
I watched, just came back to it.
Oh, okay. I watched like 3 episodes, and I just remember like Aaron tilting into the fucking stratosphere.
Yeah, they've been trying to come back to games that are highly demanded, and that one was demanded to be finished.
Oh yeah, I believe it,
because everyone wants to see them suffer.
Well, also he was like given that game and the Philips console on camera at an event, so they kind of like called him out.
They're like, "Fucking do it,
yeah,
or you lose subscribers."
That's right.
Shit,
even more so than like YouTube's erecting.
Good problems. So, going back to the bottom. What do we got on the bottom? Bottom bitches.
The rest.
All right, so post 5.
Mystic Quest.
Mystic Quest doesn't count.
We're only doing numbered Final Fantasy.
Mystic Quest is that's
top 5.
That's the Game Boy game, right?
No, it's the SNES. You and me play through Mystic Quest.
What was the Game Boy Final Fantasy?
And it even has
that was just a remake of 1, wasn't it? The Game Boy one.
Kind of, sort of. They had their own kind of continuity. They had their own Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 of the Game Boy ones.
Right.
Yeah,
but they didn't
fight
follow
God at the end of both 1 and the first one on Game Boy.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. But the first one's so poorly translated, you have no idea what the fuck is going on.
7 is poorly translated.
I've got the first 2 on PSP. And like, I'm just gonna sell them in 10 years and pay for my kid to go to college, because they're already like skyrocketing in price for some reason. Even though PSP fell to like $10.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The console's always gonna be cheapy. It's actual software that matters. Like,
oh man,
I've been waiting for the Vita to really drop in price, but I don't think it's going to anytime soon.
I no, and here's why. So
fuck Sony.
I really just want it just so I can play PlayStation 1 games like portably.
Yeah. So
that's the only reason I want it.
Here's why the Vita hasn't fallen, and here's why it's never going to, and here's why they're just going to keep it as their Game Boy competition, even though it doesn't compete with Game Boy at all. Never can, never will.
The Game Boy's been,
and here's why they'll
fucking 2001, and it's not a Game Boy anymore, guys. Come on.
Well, shut up.
Be a fucking adult. You know that it's.
And here's why it'll
fucking Nintendo systems.
So and
that Sony is more adult.
Nintendos.
I just call everything a Game Boy.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that Sony's never going to, especially after the Nintendo revealed their newest console.
I mean, they haven't supported the Vita in years, like
right. But keeping that hardware unsold and at a huge price and at a level of that price means that they have a share of the market or inventory that is in that number. Like they can say our company's worth this much fucking money because they have a fuck ton of Vitas stored in a warehouse that they'll never get rid of. And they don't want to, they don't mean to. Like Games Workshop recently came under a shit ton of fire for this. They stored like these 30-year-old minis and they put them on the market and upcharged them. They were like $4 minis back in the day. And now they're like $60 minis. And if you guys aren't familiar, Games Workshop is a miniatures company. They sell pewter to plastic. Warhammer 40K. Warhammer, they're the minds behind that. Blood Bowl. So one of the factions, they just upcharge the shit out of it. And they don't expect it to sell. And it didn't. But their overall like market weight went up because they were like, we're worth this much now. You can't say that they're not.
I feel like it's
that's just a marketing tactic that these people do. That's just something they do to appease their shareholders. I feel something they do to lie to people. Isn't that the
whole concept of futures, right? In investing?
Yeah.
Like you just say, pretty much, well, now this is worth $60.
Exactly. Once we do this thing, we're going to be valued at this. So that is the price that you should be buying.
It values the company more.
I feel like it's a little different with Sony though, because like,
you can't get those new, so I don't feel like that.
It's not even just that. It's
can.
Like minis don't. There's no like progressive technology advancement on minis. Like minis from the 60s and minis from 2015 are all probably pretty fucking similar. Whereas like a Vita, like that hardware is going to age and get more and more outdated and more like mid 2000s era. Like
correct, I agree. But if you're just using it to hike the overall like. I mean, all right, if they don't come out with another... So the PSP, they had the PSP. They sold it at X amount of money.
Mobile.
Correct.
They're not going to.
But if they did, that would mean that the Vita goes down in price. Well, if that actually devalues the Vita, which they have used to bring on shareholders and have used to bring in investors to make happen. So if they, which like you said, they're not going to, and I agree, I don't think they will either. So long as they keep the price high and so long as the hardware is difficult to come by or costs a shit ton of money, way more than it should be, even if it ages not so well. Because to go back to what you were saying, miniatures do age. It's the molding sculpts that age. And if you keep mold sculpting out of the same sculpts from, the 80s, which what they do, versus their newest sculpts, you are literally using antiquated technology to produce an inferior product and then upcharging for it because you fucking say so. And that didn't fly. And that's why those miniatures never flew off the shelf.
But also
that's why GW went to court in the United States to come after people. And that's why they failed here in the United States. And that's why China is now like one of the biggest marketers for their product because they can steal it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today I learned.
Yeah.
I don't know if
corporations do that all the time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree that that's what's happening with Vita. I just think because it's a limited product, like you really can't find them new anywhere. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they haven't.
They don't produce them anymore, so there's a scarcity, which is why prices maintain high.
Their distributors have them, but there is no actual. It doesn't behoove anybody to ask a distributor to bring them in. There's no demand. There's no swing off the shelf for them. If GameStop was like all of a sudden, well, we put some Vitas on the shelves, they're not going anywhere. Like you may go in and get one, but I would not, even though I also have the desire to play PS1 games. I also have a stronger desire to just play a better fucking handheld. So I'm going to play a 3DS, which is what a majority of the world is going to do, which is what a majority of the world has done. I'm not saying that that's the reason why they do it. It's just another reason as to why they wouldn't not do something like that. And companies always do that. That's the smart play. That's the smart thing is you tell your distributors, stop distributing it. Now we haven't shown a loss. Now I don't have to tell my investors we failed. Okay, cool. Great. and we just leave it, as a dead end, and call it a failed project internally. Externally, there's no new news. There's no new developments. Our overall worth as a company is still the same or is still high. Yep. We still have X amount of product for X amount of dollars. That's all.
It's a really boring conversation.
Yes, it is.
I was going to say, and that was Jared's business quarter.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. I thought it was interesting.
I mean, it's
Sorry.
interesting. I still kind of disagree just based on the fact that it's the market for games. I disagree with your comparison. I'm not saying you're wrong. It's like the market for game hardware is so much different, and they've
Sure.
they've stopped production on the Vita. They stopped the production of Vita. And
There's no production on the Sisters of Battle either. I mean, that's why I made the comparison, is because I felt like, antiquated tech, no actual market value to the consumer, at least. Old, they're not making it anymore. It is a retired product. It can't be made. The company that, or rather the presses that used to make them, I think don't even fucking exist anymore. They would have to either rebuild or refurbish a press for the molds that they currently have.
So that's why they sold it at a markup.
So that's why they were just like jacked it the fuck up, moved it to their like they couldn't get rid of them when they were $4 a head.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they can get rid of them if they jack the fucking prices up. But in an effort to not lose their overall stock shares, they just wanted to show that like they had a huge increase in, market worth.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully that
Didn't realize our
expounds.
podcast was going to turn into business talk.
Are we going to
be on CNBC?
So speaking of supply and demand, how long do we think it's going to take before there's a Final Fantasy 16?
Well, we got a Final Fantasy 7 remake to worry about first.
I'm not worried about that.
Okay, so I think it's going to be a little bit
Sony
because
has to worry about it first.
There's a lot of other things apparently coming down the pipeline when it comes to Final Fantasy that is not the next Final Fantasy.
Well, I mean, it took us.
We've seen that before.
How long did it take? What, between 13 and 15?
Over 10 years.
13 and 15 was a fucking long time.
Yeah,
Versus 13 was announced in 2006.
Wasn't this versus 13?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This is versus 13.
I watched a comparison video of what it looked like 10 years ago versus now.
Well, they're going to pull metrics, and that's going to take years. So I would presume they're going to do the same thing that like companies such as Bethesda do, where they're going to sit on it for 4 or 5 years and camp it out.
Well, because
they already know the most important metric. It's the fastest selling Final Fantasy game of all time.
Well, that's not hard. I mean, I don't know if they're
more people.
10 years in the making.
Exactly,
it was hyped up for a very long time. It's on multiple consoles instead of one.
Market, like
it was going to sell regardless of how good it was or not.
That's an easy brag to make for all the reasons that they just said. It's not a fair brag to make. So I would like to see them actually come up with some real fucking numbers and then associate that with the inflation that exists in today's market.
Raytheon on your TV is just trolling me.
So we know that they've got the Final Fantasy 7 remake coming down, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is apparently coming out.
Is it?
They said 2017.
17. Yep.
They didn't give an official date, but they said 2017.
What's going to come out first? Persona in America or Kingdom Hearts 3? Because Persona has a release date, but it's been pushed back like 9 times.
That I cannot answer for you.
I would not know.
But I can tell you what else they're doing for Final Fantasy.
I just played Persona 3.
Yeah.
That's it.
Those games are like 190 hours long. Like I just don't.
It's already hard enough for me to dedicate 10 hours to a game.
These days, like outside of WoW, I'm not dedicating more than like a single player game is barely holding my attention for more than 10-15 hours. Like I don't know how people can just like go nuts on Persona.
You're in luck. I'm under 25 hours into Final Fantasy. I'm at the end of the game.
Saying like I'd probably put the
it can
time.
Be done.
Yeah, I'd put the time into 15. Like just talking about like Persona in general. Those games are even to this day are mid 90s JRPGs in terms of their density and their length. Where it's just like
I didn't know that Squeenix even had Persona.
No, it's not Squeenix.
Oh, it's not.
It's Atlas.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying.
As far as
Persona is supposed to be coming out in 2017, it's also a very hyped anime JRPG that's been
Right.
Yeah.
in the pipeline for a long time, 6-7 years now.
They've released like 7 Persona anime series in between 4 and
course.
5 or whatever it is now. So
I'm interested to see the Half-Life 3 of JRPGs. I mean, I wish them all the best. Hopefully they are learning a lot of lessons with the new Final Fantasy.
There isn't
I didn't play Kingdom Hearts 2.
I couldn't figure out if I wanted to say there isn't a Half-Life 3 of JRPGs, or if I wanted to make some like really obscure Super Nintendo reference. I couldn't think of one off the top of my head, so
I'll just pretend you did.
okay, yeah.
oh wow, nice.
Deep cuts.
That's a deep cut, bro.
Sick reference, bro.
So Kingdom Hearts 3 will eventually come out. I mean, what do we think about Final Fantasy 7 being remade? Is that necessary?
I think
After
okay, so necessity aside, like whether you think it's necessary or not, it's been like the thing people have been clamoring for from that series. So it's like 50 with the 10-year gap between a shitty game, another shitty game, and then 15. Like while 15 is supposedly is good, it's definitely better than 13 and 13.2 or whatever. Was that what's called 13.2?
Well, there's like 13.2 and 13.3. There's 3 of them.
let's
Final
not
Fantasy
delve.
13 colon Lightning Returns.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's the other way around. Lightning Returns colon Final Fantasy 13.
Can we?
That's pretentious as fuck. That's almost as pretentious as the new Bon Iver album song titles. I don't know. Have you seen those?
No.
They're all written in like weird, like alternate ASCII codes.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's awful.
I guess if you're a piece of shit. So anyway, continue with your point.
I don't remember my point is anymore. I'm so mad about the fucking Bon Iver song.
Everything's in ASCII alt text.
The Final Fantasy VII remake is more of a necessity.
Oh yeah, okay, there we go. That's what we're talking about.
Not necessarily for Square, but it'll make them a lot of money
For the
but
fans.
It's the fans just want something that's familiar.
Here's my thing.
An updated take on 7, like 7 being the most universally popular one. Like obviously 6, 8, and 9 are just up there as well. But 7 was a lot of people's onboarding to the JRPG genre.
I agree.
And a lot of the people that were my age or a little younger or slightly older when those games came, when 7 specifically came out, they want to see that game updated because it's like that's the kind of game that you can lose yourself in.
Here's my problem. A remake is not necessarily a good thing.
You're right.
And here's why. I don't think this is the case for 7, but if it is, and a bunch of people from Squaresoft are listening right now, don't do us any fucking favors.
Our only listeners.
Yeah, or just
off the blue.
Oh,
jeez.
MetaVillains.
Why is it gotta get racist?
Because they're Japanese. There's Squeenix. They would be this. It's not racist. It's fine. My stepfamily's Chinese. I can make that joke.
Just going down the list.
Yeah.
Things white people say to not be
Close
racist.
enough.
I just got to hit all the nails on the head.
Princess Kinigo.
Yeah. If so, I absolutely hated the Final Fantasy remake that came out to Steam for Final Fantasy
7
in every single fucking way. No, just they remade recently.
First Final Fantasy.
Yeah, in the last 2 years, they remade Final Fantasy.
I know they've
and it is atrocious.
They've updated the graphics to be those like weird like 3DS.
It's awful.
Models
just
almost.
fucking fuck that game.
Like the Final Fantasy 4 re-release on Steam is the actual like Nintendo DS models.
They could have just cleaned up the art or cleaned up the pixel art, and it would have been beautiful, and I would have been super happy with it. I think it's awful. I think they overcharged for it, and that they're pieces of shit. Having bought. I mean, I bought the Final Fantasy VII remake, but that came out a while back from.
See, but I think you need to.
That's not. Oh, that's not a remake.
Yeah,
sorry, that was the re-release.
Not even that. That's literally just the PC.
Final Fantasy
with,
V was not a re-release. It was supposed to be like the HD version, or that's how they market it. And they did the same thing with 9. I think they're just releasing Final Fantasies.
But that's not what 7 is going to be. They're actively like remaking that game from the ground up.
Right.
Like there's a good chance that a lot of that stuff is going to be cut. Like for instance, is there going to be a shitty snowboarding segment?
Right.
Probably not. Like, why
Is
would you
ever
have
gonna
that?
be-
Am I going to be able to cross dress?
Yes, they've already said they're going to keep that in. That is like one of the most iconic parts of the game. I think obviously
It might be presented a little bit differently.
society has changed a little bit more, and we've gotten to a point where we understand the offensiveness of that scene
Right.
maybe a little bit more than we did in the 90s.
That's what I was going to ask is, I mean, how much are we going to give and take to take away from Final Fantasy VII to the point where it's no longer Final Fantasy? And how much are we going to keep? I mean, there's an ebb and flow to that.
I think they definitely have mentioned wanting to keep a fair amount of that game intact, which is why it's going to be 3 or 4 installments. And I think we've talked about this like last.
I'm not a fan of that.
Literally last year around this time, almost exactly a year ago, we talked about all the announcement about it being
Right.
Episodic.
an episodic release, and I think I'm okay with that in a way, because like there's no way you can release Final Fantasy VII in 2016 on one disc. It's just not going to work. The game's too big. Like you don't have pre-rendered backgrounds to fall back on anymore. Like you don't have.
Yeah, but you can still release it as one title. You can have multiple discs. It's not a big deal to have that.
But I think at that point, like, if they were going to do that, they wouldn't have announced it now. They would announce it in like 2019 when they were like 2 years off.
Well, they clearly didn't learn their lesson with Final Fantasy 13
Well,
versus
to be
10 years
fair,
later, now Final
they
Fantasy
literally
15.
announced all those Final Fantasy 13 games at once. They were like, Final Fantasy 13 is going to have 19 games in the fucking series. Like, and then obviously the 13 floundered and wasn't very good, so they kind of jumped ship.
They didn't know about the sequels to that because they kept trying to do over, essentially,
Yeah.
and try to get 13 back on track. So they're like, oh, let's try again with 13 too. Oh, wait, it's the same shitty game. All right, now we're going to do Lightning Returns. It's going to be a little bit different. All right, this one's still pretty shitty. All right, we don't care. All right, we're going to go back to the drawing board with this 13 verses, and we're going to take our time with it.
I really don't understand why they stuck to their guns for so long with 13 while they just like circled the drain.
I don't understand why you don't imagine that episode or Final Fantasy VII could come out on a single disc.
I think it could.
I don't. Not
If The Witcher can fit on a single disc.
Yeah.
But The Witcher, I don't know. I think there's like more
300 hours of gameplay.
more environments in 7. Like that's the main issue with like updating a Final Fantasy game from that time, is that you have like the pre-rendered backgrounds, like I originally said, like they were the gods of that. Like everything was this like beautiful pre-rendered background, and you have all these like amazing like different areas of the game that you're going to. Like you're literally in 30 to 40 different environments at any given time, and I think that's where the size comes from over The Witcher, where The Witcher is like 3 major like areas that have plenty of content, but like in terms of the actual like environment, it's not.
I can see where you're coming from, in that if Square decides that Final Fantasy VII, they take the route that this needs to be the best game that they've ever made, and it's it's basically a game that they're recreating, then yeah, I can see that. If they want to take every single battle and randomize the background somehow to where it also does not look shitty, but looks brand new and feels fresh every time you do it. And, you know, they want to get away from this framework, but still have the essence of the same game that we all know and love. I could see that being a game that, you know, dwarfs The Witcher. I think that game should come out in 2020.
I think a lot of the comparing a JRPG with The Witcher, though, like in terms of like size,
I'm just in size is my only
I feel like
comparison.
The size comes from so many different things in those games. Like The Witcher, like I said, it's got a couple of areas, but none of them are like drastically different than the other, and they're all.
I would disagree.
I would disagree.
Strongly disagree.
But I mean, you still have only a few areas, really, right? Like,
no, I actually think that the expansions added a ton of depth.
I did not fuck with the expansions at all.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could see if you stick to the storyline or you get lost in the side quests of a specific area, how you could definitely feel that way. Because if you follow the storyline, it can fast track you through a lot of areas that remind you a lot of areas you've been, because they do. They run you back to the same villages, to the same major cities, to the same metropolis, to the same hole in the wall cities. So I could certainly see that. But if you got stuck questing in an area, if you decided to complete every single quest that you fucking could, you were going to live and breathe 100 hours in one fucking spot. And, by all means, go for it. But yeah, you would definitely, that's going to stick with you for sure. I mean, I'd certainly rotted 150 hours in the city.
Yeah, I put like 20 hours into The Witcher and was just like, this is too fucking dense for me. Yeah, but okay, so
that's fair.
You guys are probably right. Like, yeah, it came out on one disc, but I think the major issue with them breaking it up episodically, which I think is something we talked about like a year ago, was the idea of getting an episode out ASAP, getting disc 1 out, getting you to like the Shinra breakout.
I see that as less of what you are saying and more of them reining in dollar signs. And that's how I see it. And that's how they should do it.
Yeah, I mean, they're a fucking business. Like,
exactly. And I'll leave it at that.
Not another business talk.
Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, it's going to come full circle with me.
Here's the problem with remaking Final Fantasy VII in the first place. They're Square. They're Squeenix. They're not going to leave well enough alone. They're going to try to clarify the story. They've already said they're changing the battle system. They're changing how you do things, in the game. It's not going to feel like the same game that we played. And they're going to try to... The story of Final Fantasy VII is nonsensical at best.
Yeah, that's pretty convoluted.
Okay, like
it suffers from the fact that it's very poorly translated as well.
Right, like nobody is he a clone? Is he a clone of Genova or of Sephiroth? Did he lose his memory? Who's Zack? I don't fucking know. There's just a thing in the live stream. There's Big Cloud. There's Little Cloud. He wasn't there. He was there. Who the fuck knows what's going on? But
okay, I want to point out that I can probably kind of explain that, but
I'm sure you can.
We'll do it later. Don't worry about it.
We'll talk about it later. Either way, it's almost guaranteed that they're gonna try to like make it easier to follow, and thereby ruining the thing that people love about the game, or that I love about the game, is the experience of the story. Now, I'll be right there with you guys, munching on my member berries with my nostalgia goggles on, but I think it's gonna be a fucking train wreck. And I don't need it.
Here's the thing: if it is a train wreck, awesome. Awesome. Like, everyone, we need a good game train wreck every year or two, right? Like, you just need something that's just a fucking disaster.
Don't we have enough of those?
I feel like Squeenix has done a lot of those. Like, they've been making up for lost time.
But here's the thing: like
this could be the death knell.
I feel like the 7 remake could be really, really good, but also it's on a knife's edge. It could be really, really bad. And if it is really, really bad, we'll know pretty quickly
because
we'll
it's episode 1. And that's what I'm down for. Is like, all right, let's say episode 1 is so fucking bad that it absolutely ruins everyone for the next 2 episodes.
Do they just like...
Exactly. Do they leave it enough?
Do they U-turn and try to like completely rebalance and redistribute like what they wanted to do?
They're going to continue on with the 13 model.
Run that fucking train into the ground, dude.
Or follow the Last Airbender model of business and just abandon ship.
Well, no, that had American... That had American dollars in it, right? That's the difference. Americans know when to pull out.
Well,
not really.
If anyone knows when to pull out, it's probably the Japanese. Their birth rate is as low as it's been in decades.
No, that's just responsible.
Because they know if they have one more child, that kid's not getting on the train to work.
Yeah.
Responsible with birth, irresponsible with JRPG stories.
Have you ever seen the fucking trains in Japan?
Yeah, you're right.
It's fucking crowded as shit there.
It's crowded in a lot of places, though. It's crowded in New York.
True story.
Yeah.
True story. I think we've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we made it.
We're going to go ahead and get off of this fucking train.
Yep.
Yeah.
We just...
Dan over there is freaking out that whether it was actually recording or not.
Oh.
It was.
Excellent. Goodbye.
He's gonna
Good night.
stop. It's gonna be like, oh shit, it wasn't recording.